They would do drugs with Iggy Pop, make out with Mick Jagger in the bathroom, come back and have shots with John Bonham before witnessing a fight between Paul McCartney and John Lennon. They were young and hot and beloved among rock stars. They would spend their night on Los Angeles' Sunset Strip, going to different bars and clubs and hanging out with the elite of rock and roll music in the 70s. All of that while still going back to their parents' house at the end of the night and going to school the next day. All of that while being 12 or 13 years old. They were known for being young, fun, and hot. They were baby groupies. Hello and welcome to this video. So today I want to do another historic video, and this time I'm talking about the baby groupies of the 70s. I just want to put a quick trigger warning right here because in this video I'm going to talk about young girls at the age of 12, 13, 14 having sex and being intimate with rock stars and men well in their 20s and 30s. And if that sounds like something that is triggering to you, please just skip this video. I will link another video for you to watch right here about 60s counterculture in general, talking more about the general history of the 60s. But if you want to know more about the baby groupies, keep on watching this video. So you've probably heard of groupies before. These girls that followed rock stars or even were staying in one town and whoever rock star came into that town and played a show was hanging out with them. Maybe you've also seen Almost Famous and dreamed about being a groupie and being with a rock star on tour. However, it wasn't all as glamorous as it might seem in the first place. Almost Famous is mainly based on the real life of two girls, Sable Starr and Lori Mattix. And these two girls were a special kind of groupies, known as baby groupies. Baby groupies were underage and over-sexualized girls. And when I say underage, I'm not talking about girls who are 16 or 17, I'm talking about girls who are really underage, and especially about girls between the ages of 12 and 14. These girls were heavily involved in the LA music scene. And they were hanging out with both up-and-coming artists and well-established rock stars. They spent countless nights with rock stars and men in their 20s and 30s in front of dozens of reporters and cameras, and somehow it was accepted that these girls were barely teenagers yet. So let's talk about the two most famous baby groupies, Lori Mattix and Sable Starr. Because these two girls slept with pretty much every big name in the 70s LA music scene. Known as baby groupies, these two girls would get all dressed up to go to the West Hollywood Strip and visit bars, clubs, and concerts. Carrying fake IDs, they'd spend countless nights partying at different clubs and bars with rock stars like Alice Cooper, Mick Jagger, and Rod Stewart. Sable Starr reportedly lost her virginity to Spirit's guitarist Randy California at the age of only 12 years old. She was heavily involved with Iggy Pop for multiple years and even inspired one of his songs that came out in 1996, which is called Look Away. So I want to read some of the lyrics to you because they're pretty explicit. I slept with Sable when she was just 13. Her parents were too rich to do anything. She rocked her way around LA till a New York doll carried her away. This is also referring to the New York Doll guitarist, with whom she ended up running away from home and going to New York, but I'm gonna talk about this a bit more later on in the video. So even though Sable was probably the most popular baby groupie in the early 70s, her friend Lori Mattix was right up there with her. These two kind of had a love-hate relationship. They spent a lot of time together, they were partying with a lot of rock stars, they were friends, but they would also get jealous of each other depending on who would hang out with whom. And I feel like they also both kind of wanted to be the #1 groupie, and that is where a lot of conflict between those two sparked. So Lori reportedly lost her virginity to David Bowie at the age of 14, when David Bowie was 10 years her senior, so already 24. And afterwards she started a relationship with Led Zeppelin's guitarist Jimmy Page, and they were together for quite a long time actually. There was a nightclub called the E Club, which was notorious for giving a blind eye to young girls without IDs who were definitely underage and who were going from stage to stage and backstage with all of the artists performing. Lori Mattix would do drugs with Iggy Pop, then go with Mick Jagger to the bathroom to have sex, come back, do a couple of shots with John Bonham, and then witness a fight between Paul McCartney and John Lennon. It seemed like within a couple of years she'd lost the innocence and restraint she had coming into the scene. Both Sable and Lori's relationships and encounters with all of these rock stars are really well documented. There are tons of pictures and articles about them. They were featured on the Cream magazine tons of times, but somehow no one seemed to care that these girls in fact still were children. Sable Starr died of brain cancer at the age of 51 in Nevada after running away from home at age 16 with New York Dolls guitarist Johnny Thunder. She even got pregnant with his kid, and while he wanted to marry her and have a happy family, she couldn't deal with his jealousy, and so they broke up and she got an abortion. Lori now works in the fashion industry, and in 2015 she gave a very intrusive interview to Thrillist. In that interview, she talked about being sexually involved with Mick Jagger and David Bowie while she was still underage. Her experience has actually become a notable discussion point in the whole Me Too movement. In the interview, she talked about how Sable and her were regulars at Rainbow Bar and Grill, the Whiskey A Go-Go, and Rodney Bingenheimer's English Disco at Sunset Strip. About how David Bowie de-victimized her the night that she lost her virginity, and how he also had a threesome with her that same night. I read a biography about Led Zeppelin in which the biographer, who was really close to Jimmy Page, said that in 1972, when Jimmy Page started dating Lori, he went great lengths to make sure no one knew of their romance, because at the time she was only 13 years old. And there actually was the possibility of Jimmy being arrested for statutory rape. Lori is also said to be referred to in the Led Zeppelin song Sick Again with the words, "One day soon you're gonna reach 16. Painted lady in the city of lies." There were lots of famous groupies in the 70s, like Pamela the Bar of the GTOs in general, or BB Buell. But Lori Mattix and Sable Starr stood out, living with their parents, going to school, while living a double life during the nights. However, their involvement with rock and roll's elite was no secret and somehow accepted. Movies like Almost Famous quickly touch on the topic of abuse from rock stars to those younger girls, but it doesn't really seem to be that big of a deal, and it honestly doesn't really seem like back then anyone really cared. Even though there was consent with these sexual encounters, these girls were in fact still children, blinded by the fame and glory of these adult men. I honestly think it's really important to not glorify the 70s and the groupies. There were great parts about it, but we shouldn't forget about these young girls and what happened to them. I feel like people who are big fans of rock stars of that time and the groupies and the entire 70s and 60s like I am should take a closer look and acknowledge that these girls are real human beings with real feelings, and in fact back then they were just children. So that's it for today's video. I honestly think you don't have to go and burn all of your David Bowie and Led Zeppelin records, but I think it's important to know that there was a downside to 60s and 70s music, fame, groupies, hippies, and the entire movements, and that's why I'm making these videos, because I think it's important to know what was going on during that times, and that there was a downside to the 60s and 70s being the golden era of rock and roll music, groupies, and the entire lifestyle they lived. Please make sure to leave a comment telling me what you think, your opinions, and if you know more about these girls, please share your knowledge in a comment. I love to read all of the comments and reply to as many as possible. If you enjoyed the video, it would also mean a lot if you could give it a thumbs up and maybe even share it with a friend. As said, I think it's important for a lot of people to know about this and educate themselves about their favorite 60s and 70s rock stars. So make sure to share this video with a friend who might be interested. If you want to see more history related 60s and 70s videos or videos about the 60s and 70s makeup style, all of these things, make sure to subscribe because I upload multiple videos every single week all about that, and I would love to have you around. I hope you have an amazing day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine, take yourself some time to focus on you and your mental health today, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye guys!